So, you want to know what happens after you get arrested in New York City? That's a great question, and you came to the right place to get the answer. Stay tuned, and I'm going to give you the complete rundown. So, the big question is, what happens after you're arrested in New York City? Well, you will be transported to the local precinct. The precinct that you're transported to will coincide directly with the neighborhood that you are arrested in. What happens once you get to the precinct? You will be removed from the squad car and taken into the precinct and put in a holding cell. This is where they will book you. The booking process consists of having your picture taken, being fingerprinted, and being asked any number of questions by the booking officer that is also a police officer. And what questions will he ask you? He will ask you where you work, where you live. They want to know what you're all about. At that point, after that process is commenced, in short order, two things will happen. You will be informed that you're being given a desk appearance ticket, also known as a DAT, or you'll be informed that you're going to be processed into the system. What does it mean to be processed into the system, and what does it mean to be given a desk appearance ticket? If you're given a desk appearance ticket, you're allowed to leave from the precinct and go home or wherever you choose to go. If you're processed into the system, that means that you're going to be taken to whatever borough you're arrested in also has a central booking. New York City consists of 5 counties, 5 different jurisdictions. That is the uniformed court system of New York City. For example, if you're arrested in the East Village of New York, you will be taken to primarily the 9th precinct, but potentially the 7th precinct. And since those 2 neighborhoods are located in Manhattan, you'll be taken to Manhattan Central Booking, which is downtown on the outskirts of Chinatown. Now, what happens after you get informed that you're going to be processed into the system? Well, after the booking process is completed at the precinct, you will be placed back in the handcuffs, back in the squad car, and you will be transported by the police officers, usually that arrest you, but maybe that's not 100%. It could be any officer that is available for transportation. Again, it will usually be the officers that arrest you. Now, what happens? Well, as you're being transported, it will depend on what precinct you're arrested in, what neighborhood you're arrested in, and what precinct you're processed through. So if you're arrested uptown, say 200 Indictment Street, your transportation time is going to be much longer than if you was arrested, say, downtown in Chinatown, where the 1st or the 2nd precinct would have jurisdiction of that. So it may take you anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes to be transported to central booking from the precinct. What happens when you get to central booking? Obviously, you will be transported from the police car to central booking, and that will require you going through a whole bunch of gates and locked doors and so on. Once you get into central booking, your handcuffs will be removed, and if you are being charged with a felony, you will be strip searched. If you're being charged with a misdemeanor, you will be what they call pat frisk. You'll be made to empty your pockets, be patted down, and have to walk through a metal detector. What happens after that? You will be placed into what they refer to as the bullpens. Now, it just depends how crowded it is, how many people got arrested approximately the same time you are arrested. Now, as a matter of law in New York City, they have 24 hours to get you to the courtroom, i.e. from the time you are arrested until the time you are standing in front of a judge being arraigned. They have approximately 24 hours. The only time they're routinely allowed to exceed 24 hours if you have some kind of an, an exorbitant case that may take a little bit more investigative time to find out what's going on with you, but as a 90% plus rule, you will see a judge within 24 hours from your time of arrest. So, again, what happens when you are placed into the central booking? Okay, you will enter into a bullpen, and you will stay in that bullpen an hour or 4, and then you will be moved to another bullpen, and you will stay in that bullpen an hour or 4. At some point, they will come and pass out some kind of breakfast or lunch, and it's going to be a sandwich and a cup of juice, or maybe for breakfast a little box of cereal and a carton of milk. And after that, you will be moved to another cell. And when you go from cell to cell, you're moving along in the process. They're not just moving you around from cell to cell. New people come in, so that initial cell needs to be emptied out so those people can put in. And it's a way of keeping people in an orderly, fashion as they move through the system. Well, downstairs in central booking, you'll go through 3 to 4 cells, and this might take 10 to 15 hours, and your name will be called by correctional staff and or police officers, depending on who's working that area that day. It changes slightly from day to day. And you will be taken upstairs to where the courtrooms are operating. Now, again, there's more bullpens. Now, the bullpen that you'll go in at that point is the bullpen that you will be in right up until your name is called to see the judge. While you're in that bullpen, you will be called out in the back of the bullpen by your public defender. Now, at this point, it's not about proving your innocence or going to trial or any of that. You're just going to basically be read that when you go out to the court, and what you're going to discuss with the attorney is he's going to inform you what you're being charged with and what the likelihood of you being released on your own recognizance. Your own recognizance, or OR. Or will the judge potentially set a bail, or, depending on your crime, will you be remanded? Those are your 3 options at arraignment. Now, he will more or less tell you, and depending on your prior criminal history, have you ever failed to report if you've been released on an OR? It's actually referred to as a ROR, released on your own recognizance. So has a judge ever released you on your own recognizance, and have you failed to come back to court when ordered to do so? If you have, maybe they won't release you on your own recognizance. However, these are things that you will discuss with that attorney. So within anywhere from 20 to 24 hour mark, you'll be called out to the judge. What happens at that point? Well, you will be standing with your attorney, and the prosecutor will be standing at his podium, and the judge will obviously be on the bench. And the prosecutor will say, I have no problem with releasing this guy on his own recognizance, or I'm requesting a bail, or he will request that you be held on remand, where there is no bail involved. Whatever the judge decides to do, that's what it is. So, what happens at that point? Either you are allowed to leave the courtroom, or you're held on bail, or you are held in remand. If you're allowed to leave the courtroom, obviously you don't need to watch another follow-up video. But what happens if the judge sets bail? What happens if you're remanded? So if you want to know the rest of the story, go to YouTube and request A Word from the Shadows and check this video out right here. Getting arrested in New York City. What happens next?